Good morning, everyone. Always so happy to be with you. Hikers, climbers, guardians, and guides. Title comes from some of the earlier experiences in my life where I planted a seed but did not know it. I wanted to be a storyteller but lacked the passion to learn enough about anything to tell its story. I enjoy history, but I'm not a historian. I am fascinated by geology, astronomy, paleontology, and a host of other subjects, but not enough about one to commit to over any of the others. But a seed was planted, and even though it was unconscious on the level of daily affairs, a ripple set out through the universe of spirit. Roots reached out into fertile soil, and a leaf sought out the sun. In my early days of independence, old enough to travel on my own and young enough to be free of encumbrances and commitments, I enjoyed the natural wonders our world has to offer, hiking less traveled trails, climbing where necessary, and generally educating myself on whatever was there to be learned. I did not know a seed was being planted, but thinking back, I remember sitting around those campfire talks given by park rangers and naturalists in the various campgrounds and admiring their talent for entertaining while educating. These experts in their field would tutor the gathered masses, not unlike the teacher Jesus, using stories of adventurers, heroes, villains, creatures real and imagined to reveal layer by layer the complex stories of the lands and peoples whose very existence had drawn we strangers together through our varied and divergent paths. I was captivated as much by the art of the story as I was intrigued by the subject of the story. My brain does not process lists of things well. Spelling tests devastated my self-esteem. Foreign languages bounce off my ears. The parts of a sentence remain a mystery, and needing to know whether a adverb or adjective fills the role never mattered in my world. Memorizing a menu ruled out waiting tables, and forget about tending bar if the drinks didn't come in a can. But I planted a seed, and spirit cradled it in loving embrace, nurturing it and letting it grow. So it turns out all that stuff lives in the left side of our brains, and since I am left-handed, my strengths reside in the right side of my brain, and since I am left-handed, that makes perfect sense. And it made perfect sense when a chemistry professor shared the most important lesson, and one of the few that I took from his class, that knowing a fact is not as important as knowing where to find that fact when you need it. He illustrated that message with a sweep of his arm toward the periodic table of elements prominently displayed on the classroom wall. This chart, he stated, is in every laboratory, classroom, and research facility anywhere in the world. It will be there here on full display during every lecture, quiz, or exam. Do not waste your time trying to memorize it. Just learn to understand what it is telling you and how to use that information. Everything else is just arithmetic, and I will not even grade you on your results, just whether your formulas are correct. He went on to say, in any laboratory, your results will be checked, double-checked, triple-checked, recreated by your peers, and respected by your most abject detractors. The correct formula will always generate the correct result. I suggest to you now that our collective understanding of spirit is no more difficult than that. We are not charged with trying to figure out how the chemistry of the universe must evolve to create for us our desired results. We need only understand how to use the information at hand. We need only understand that a seed cast on fertile ground must grow and flourish simply because there is nothing else it can do. Spirit, God, by whatever name your tradition dictates, does all the heavy lifting. Ours is to still our busy minds and open ourselves to hearing, seeing, feeling, and even smelling the clues laid out before us. This is not to say there's nothing we must do. The gift of spirit is clues, not conclusions. While we are visiting this physical realm, there are physical constrictions at play, and we must navigate them while remaining tethered to our spiritual truth. Reference the fate of Icarus, whose lofty goal of soaring closer to God conflicted with the physical limits of wax exposed to the heat of the sun. All of us are storytellers. The paradox is we often do not realize what character we play in the story. We often think of ourselves as the victim in our story. We wax poetic, describing ad nauseum how some ill-defined or mythical they have done us wrong, placed in impossible situations with no tools or support. We are crushed again and again by a world whose seemingly only purpose is to bring ill upon us. It is all rigged against us. Oh, woe is me. It is a convenient role to play. Being a victim provides the foundation for a wide latitude of responses. A victim can just roll over and play dead. Yes, I'm a failure and I give up. I'm done. A victim can self-justify revenge, see themselves as the hero in their story, smiting the nebulous villain, bringing justice to the world. This comes in handy when we find ourselves doing unspeakable deeds and need to deploy some cover for our guilty consciences. Picture here the spouse abuser whose violent outbursts could have never occurred if their other had simply not eaten crackers in bed. A victim escapes responsibility because there is always someone else to blame. I would have been on time for the team demonstration, but traffic was a bear this morning, conveniently leaving out the part about oversleeping because they were out until the wee hours partying the night before this important event whose successful outcome would affect their entire team's future. The stories we tell reveal lessons we have learned. There's one story I heard quite by chance in the break room at work one day. A co-worker fancied himself an accomplished outdoorsman, backpacker, climber, hunter, survivalist type. You know the type. Every season for years he went to a special spot known only to him, where he knew he could always get a deer. It required an all-night climb up a rugged cliff face. Once at the top, he would set up his camp, eat a can of beans, and set up the can on a distant rock and fire one of the 3 bullets he had brought with him to sight in his rifle, then waited for the deer that always wandered into his hunting zone. The deer always moved in before daybreak, so he had his prize and was packing it down the mountain before the first rays of the sunlight broke into the little valley. His confidence, his ego assured him he would get the deer with just one shot, but being a humanitarian, he brought one extra bullet just in case. This particular year he got a late start, and the first glow of dawn was already bleeding into the eastern sky. When he reached his campsite, he would forego the beans and just pick some distant rock to sight his rifle with. He scanned the distance through his rifle scope, noting the rapid fleeting of the dark. He saw movement and realized the deer were already moving into the little area he had staked out. He would need to take his shot cold without sighting a round that would scare them off. As he zeroed in on a buck to his liking, he was distracted by a glint of light from something on the far side of the little valley, the sun creeping over the horizon, and for the first time ever he was seeing his secret hunting place in the light of day. The deer always came there, it turns out, because the valley was an apple orchard, and the deer knew a tasty treat could be had there. The rising sun had glinted off the windshield of a Winnebago that had easily driven up the mountain on a well-maintained road and come up the other side of the mountain. My co-worker would never hunt again. And I share this with you now as an example of how we sometimes tell ourselves stories where we overcomplicate the experience by insisting on making it difficult for ourselves when Spirit is perfectly willing to provide an apple orchard and a well-maintained road for us instead. The science of mind allows us to assign ourselves any role we wish to play in our story. The science of mind does this and informs us regardless of what role we play. We are first and foremost the author of our story. No actors are hired, no sets constructed, equipment procured, or a dollar spent before the script is written. My preference for movies as an analogy over books here is because of the teamwork required. A book being the work of a single individual, perhaps an editor or co-writer, but a movie being a composite of hundreds, if not thousands, of team members working together in the same way that a spirit is in a combination of hundreds, if not thousands, of random events coming together to form an experience based on a single planting of a seed, all starting with a script. The seed of an idea, and a fertile field upon which to lie. The seed was planted in fertile soil for me because at the time I was always on vacation. I was always outside of the everyday experiences. I was off the beaten trail, as it were. I was taking that path less traveled. My mind was open and susceptible to new ideas with a powerful emotional feeling of this is new and exciting and where I want to be. In my admiration of these park rangers and naturalists, I had no idea that the seed had been cast. I really wasn't even aware that it was what they were doing, not who they were, that was influencing me. And I was well aware of the physical constrictions at play. I was never going to know enough about geology, biology, or indigenous history to fulfill one of these careers. I wasn't interested in doing the work required to fit into one of those uniforms. Fortunately for me, Spirit cut through the noise, the flash and trappings of the moment to know the truth that lay under it all. The seed was planted, and I did not know it. I had no idea how the kernel would evolve, what choices would be required, or what opportunities might be revealed, but Spirit had taken up the challenge, and with a divine wave of "hold my beer," events unfolded before me, revealing turn after turn into the unknown, over the next hill and around the next bend in the river. Unbeknownst to me, my team was being assembled. Producers, editors, actors, and extras, all the trades required to build, light, and capture the set I would wander through, crash into, or fly over, emerged from the midst of each new day. And each day I would write a completely new script, because each day my journey revealed more and more of our simple truth. We can write a completely new script every day. Oh, sure, we have these physical constraints. I will never fly in outer space. But my imagination can. I can tell stories about life beyond what is now known. I can create worlds unknown to humankind. I can create the world I choose to live in. I can create a story where the events unfolding around me are observed and acknowledged, but not permitted to distract me from knowing who I truly am. And it turns out I can tell stories that inspire others to take pen in hand or light up a keyboard to write new pages in their own stories, unlike any that have come before. I am a guardian, a guide, and a storyteller. First and foremost for myself, and because I and others too have climbed the mountain. Those who follow are free to drive up the road on the other side. Thank you for your attention.